What's up, everyone? I think a lot of the times that, I'm kind of going through something, it's because I feel like I'm not making any progress. One of the things that I wanted to talk about in this brief little segment is, trying to get a control of our anger. And especially when you don't feel like you're making any progress in life. I know for me, that could be a business. I think a lot of the times I feel like, hey, I understand like the whole business concept. Like, I feel like I understand everything about it. But then, I find myself not making very much progress. And I can get frustrated or angry. And, I heard that in kind of like a little I highly recommend the For Dummies series for a lot of different topics. It's the yellow and black book. Looks like a bumblebee. You'll see it in bookstores, or you just, type out For Dummies. And you'll see, like, don't be offended by the For Dummies, icon, because it has a lot of good information in there. But one of the things that it just said, I'm listening to the book again, and it said, do you ever feel like, you're getting angry because you're doing a lot of hard work, but you're not making any progress? And that's how I feel like so many times during the day, like, especially when it comes to housing, especially, it's not even like the idea of being homeless. It's like working to be content. Like, I remember just having, some of my favorite apartments, and I look forward to getting another apartment. But, you could just be so satisfied, like, with your apartment setup, and then someone could say something, maybe your spouse, like, oh, look at that new, like, 3-bedroom, or it's a 4-bedroom, or it's a single family home. And so you're constantly, like, on this little treadmill to, like, make progress. And I think a lot of it has to do with contentment. But then, one of the things that it said in the book, the author said in the book, was like, just not getting so upset, because it's so, like, common to feel like you're not making a lot of progress, even though you're working very hard. And so, that's kind of one of the things that I've been dealing with. And I think the helpful thing is to do, like, self-help, to do counseling. One of the things that I learned recently, and I've thought of this before, is like to continue doing the things that you're doing, even though you feel better, even though you might have reached a plateau where you're like, hey, I'm good. Like, I've gotten what I wanted, or, what I've called it is like maintenance. And basically, even though you buy a new car, like, I guess you could just keep buying new cars, like a lot of people do that. But also, everyone knows that when you've had a car for a while, you got to take it in for maintenance. And I think a lot of our lives are kind of like that too, where we have to keep going to counseling, keep going to, like, if you're, Alcoholics Anonymous, or you're, dealing with some sort of personality thing, we have to always just keep working on ourselves. And that can be annoying sometimes, like, but it's also good, it feels good to, like, make progress, little progress. And I think that is kind of one thing that I think of, is just like focus on the little victories that you're having, instead of, like, focusing on kind of the small little issues that, are arising. And it feels like, oh, I'm here again, I'm not making any progress. Like, I'm having the same conversation, this same type of conversation with this same person, or, I'm dealing with this same issue, just like last year or the year before. And when you look to the future, it looks like it's going to be the same thing, like no end in sight. And you know, what I found is that, things do change. And especially when you have your perspective, you know, it really depends on like the kind of perspective you have in life where, my perspective is that eventually, a lot of people may not believe in heaven, but I do. And you got to just change your perspective. So thank you.